Hiya, tin 6. I figured I'd better do this before I get to that length, because the last couple of videos I've tried to make, I was blind drunk and it was awful and I made loads of mistakes. So this time what we're going to get is a big update with lots of very, very small things, so nothing impressive. First thing, this thing. It's been a nightmare, this shed. It's always leaked, and it also has a problem with condensation in the winter, so even when it's not leaking, first thing in the morning it rained in with literally condensation off the little roof above. So I put this ply on that I got from the packing cases. It's only 4mm, thinking that would insulate it and stop the problem. No, all that did was make all the water from the wavy clear roof run along and come out wherever it could in streams, literally bucketfuls, and whatever it landed on, and you could never tell which day it was going to land where, so absolute nightmare. So yesterday my lad came along and we put another layer. Well, recently it's been raining in, just normally raining in, so we put another layer of the same stuff because I had some that was left over from taking some of the carport down. We put another layer of that on, and we put expanding foam all over the place on the far end, and so hopefully the two remaining places, which was over there and a little bit over there, will now stop leaking. And when we get into winter, then we get this condensation issue coming up every time the sun shines on it and there's cold air inside it and the sun rays go through, heat it all condenses and streams. If that happens, I'm going to whiz a million holes in this and spend 100 quid on expanding foam and just blat it everywhere to insulate the whole damn thing. It'll never come off again if I do that, and there's a risk that the foam will expand so much it'll push the roof up, but I don't care because I'm not spending any more money on it. Well, I've not spent anything so far, it's all scrap bits and bits that with it. So that was the first thing. Second thing, what then, she's now over there. It was over there and then the roof peed in and soaked it, and I thought, I'm stupid. That's where the windows are, that's where the light is, that's where the workbench should be. So I've moved it and the whole place is a complete bomb site. Partially because of that, partially because of what I've been doing. Next thing, this drill thing that I was really, really pleased with, it's not really powerful enough for what I want to do. So, I mean, it works. I had to take the surround off it, so I've got bare mains power there at the moment because it was overheating. It can drill up to about 1/4 of an inch with no problem whatsoever. Anything bigger than that and it starts getting a bit hot, so I'm going to source myself, because it's just a bog standard motor this, I'm just going to source myself an 1/2 horsepower and mount it on this, because this stand is pretty good tackle, and then I'll turn this into a polishing mop or something like that. While I was messing about in my box of bits, I found this that I never knew what it was. It's a polishing mop bracket, and as it happens it matches these. I've tried it, perfect. So that's going to be great. I'll turn this into a grinder with a rough and a fine on either end. It's got its own base plate, so that can just be a portable plug-in grinder. And then on this I'll put something for heavy duty cutting. I can change it whatever I want. So I'm quite happy about that. I just need to spec the right 1700 RPM, 240 volt is what I need. That'll do. What next? Oh, I made myself a silly bracket. I got sick of everyday stuff that you use all the time. I had to go into me. I've got a this came out of a school because I haven't managed to find or afford a proper toolbox. So I use this for the basics, and then I have buckets and boxes full of thousands of bits of rubbish that I can never find and therefore aren't useful. I'm going to get myself a proper toolbox and stick it here, is the plan. I'm going to get rid of all the garbage. Just for now I've made this thing whereby I can just pull out all the basics, flatheads, posies, a couple of spanners, and anything I haven't got up there then I have to search for it. Makes life easier. What else? The bike. Lifting the engine in and out, even though it's only a dummy, was a bit heavy, so I've stripped it. I'll show you. There's boxes of bits down there, I'll show you that. The welder. I stopped welding for a bit. I was struggling with it, and then I decided, oh, I'll go and have a look on the internet and find out what I can do to improve matters. I can fix it. Costs about 100 and odd quid. It's just the way that thing's built. It's mine's a Cosmo 130. It's exactly the same as a SIP 130, and apparently they're legendarily awful. The wire feed, which I was having such a nightmare with, is dreadful. It's run off the main transformer, and they call it auto adjust. What they mean is it's cheap to do it that way, so that anything in the way of your weld, changing the density of the metal, thicknesses, anything like that, the transformer changes its voltage, of course, because it's drawing more current, so you get that imbalance, and the wire feed changes its speed, which is why you get all this blobby nightmare rubbish. It's usable, you just have to do it so many times, and you can never get a nice clean bead unless, if a situation is everything's perfect, then it works. A slight imperfection, no it doesn't. So I'm not sure what to do about that, whether to flog that and try and get a decent one. But how much welding am I going to do? And I'm getting better at doing it this way, so we shall see. I might modify this, but I don't really want to spend the cash. Next, what have I done? I think I'd better take you off the stand. Okay, I've been playing about with loads of combinations of things, and one of the reasons for stripping the motor out, apart from the fact that it's now light and I can lift it out, was what was I going to do bracketry. And I spent most of the week playing this shape that I've got going on. My original plan was make a bracket here that will have a pin there and a bolt there, and the pin will mount into something like that, and the bolt will thread into either that or the nut welded on the back of that, and that'll be welded onto here, which works. And then the idea was put in a piece like this and shape this nicely and file it all smooth and perfect. I'm still going to do that, but I'm going to use a thicker piece than this to do it, because this is now going to be, because it's the same tubing, going in there to block that off. And it just so happens that it will match where my finger's flicking the metal with. There's the top half of the rod, and that, when this is ground off flat and that's placed up there, that is going to be welded in that position, and then that plate across to blank that, and it'll look nice, and it will also give me a bit of a triangulation onto here, because this is obviously tough as anything. I had been playing with all sorts of things, like I have where are they? I've got a bunch of these. I had been playing with mounting those in there because they're perfect fit, and one up here, again it's a perfect fit, and then using a piston and some kind of spacer to make it do that. But it's just going to be too busy. It looks great until you put an exhaust in coming through the gap, and then it's rubbish. So I've changed my mind on that. What else? Oh, I made them. They just need a hole drilling. These go like that to make it rigid, and I'm putting a hole in them, not for looks, but in case I ever want to put forward controls, I've got something to put a drop bar and a riser in to put your feet against. I think I'm going for mid controls, but leave myself the option. I'll whiz in a decent size hole in there for a 12mm bolt, and I'll make sure that they match in the proper square. Oh, the other way. So there's one for that side and there's one for that side over there. obviously I've got to take the engine out and turn the frame over and clean it all up and get it all true and nice. Like the same thing with here, that and that cut were just done by hand in the rough. They need to be an exact 45 and flattened off on the bottom before I put the other bits in. That bit works quite nice, but it's still got to have the extra bit. The other bit of the conrod, I've come up with although I haven't got a donor, I've actually missed, would you believe it, I've made offers on 3 separate bikes, and I got the third one, and the guy test rode it, and the gearbox went. So he scrapped it. It was going to be a long way to go and get it anyway, but yeah, I still need a donor bike before I'm absolutely certain about my mounting points. But if I do get the donor bike, I'm going to monoshock this and shorten all this. And what I was thinking was that would fit perfectly there, as in underneath. Stop this off here, weld that in, the pipe here, put it in there, but leave a little bit there and there. And with one of these, see how it fits there, nice for this tube, welded in, but obviously it'd be here, just to the back edge of where the conrod comes down, and one here, and that gives me 2 big things here. These are 230 kilo rated each. The 4 pallets lifting loads, and people use them on trailers for lashing stuff down, but they're way overrated for that. They're actually for putting a bolt through on a pallet and being able to winch it. So I can lose all of that and have these 2 things. The reason for having them is I can build a triangulated unit with a rubber mount, a bit like a shock mount here, because I realised she might want to come, and I love her indoors, so I'll build a little framework that can be attached to that and that with, because I've got 8 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the receivers is 8. Rubber with a steel bar going in, no problem. I can create the mount, and then I can create a detachable footbed mount to go here, because I'm having mid controls. So when I grind all this back, I'll be able to mount that. That's the plan for that. Tell you what, I loved taking the engine to bits. I've rebuilt bikes before, but I've never been below here. It's always been cylinders and the top end and grinding valves and stuff like that, but I've never been this below. I've always been scared of getting into a gearbox, so I did it on this one just for the laugh. God, there's some heavy kit in there, and there's some beautiful engineering. Oh, hello Mabel, you come visiting. If you've not seen one before, there's your gear selector that runs in the centre of one of them. And there's another one of them somewhere. Yep, there's the other one of them, and there's all the gears. Actually, the gearbox on this has survived. It's all in really nice condition, and it's probably the same as a 500 in most cases, but other places, oh god, it was awful. Right, there you go, there's your cams off the top of the engine. Oh dear, what's all that dust doing on there? There's tons of it. The bores completely rusted out, tops of the pistons completely rusted out, but then the gearbox, there you go, there's your selector that goes in this thing, that big pin. I don't know if you can see that, put it in the light. So that pin goes in there, and the other side, when that turns, it pushes your gears whichever way to engage all the different ratios. I just love stuff like that, isn't it nice? Very pretty. I'm keeping it all. I might make lamp stands out of it or something. I just think weighing it in for scrap is just wrong. There's so much engineering gone into that. Beautiful. Again, oops. I just smashed that all off with a hammer. I couldn't be bothered trying to save it. Who needs a GS450 clutch basket? Not really anybody. So I think that's about where I am. Next thing I changed the way I mount the thing. Turned out I was using all these silly blocks. All I had to do was take that off, which is for the rear drum brake restraint, and stick 2 big blocks of wood in. Makes life so much easier. And then all this, because there's nothing in it, doesn't weigh anything. This is a bit awkward because that is slightly heavy, but it'll come out. I've only got one of them, and that's the pattern for the next one. Put it on there. So I'm getting somewhere. Slowly. What's that expression? Catch a monkey? Don't know. But yeah, there won't be another update for the little bit. Hang on. Yeah, dropped the better half off at the airport yesterday morning. She's now in the south of France with her sister, and me and my brother-in-law are going to join them on Tuesday, so I won't be doing anything major in here. I might be getting the angle grinder out and cutting all the, don't know if you can see them, like there, the roof mounting screws, because I'm never going to take it off again. Take the angle grinder and grind all these off, and then I'm going to get some paint, whiten all this out so it's a slightly nicer environment, and get all the dust off these angle irons that are holding the roof up. Loads of jobs, but I'd like to get this sorted before the winter sets in, so I can spend my evenings in here in comfort. I think it's probably a good idea to do this. What I might do actually, because it will work, I might just take the router and put a 1/2 inch hole through the middle of all this, making sure I don't break onto the plastic roofing above it. Might do that. I might do a strip, and that gives me plenty of space to get the nozzle from some expanding foam. Because when you look at it, that should have 15mm exterior grade hardboard on it, but the 35 quid a sheet of 8x4, and it's quite a big space. Cheaper if I just do it with expanding foam, because that stuff, once it's in, you ain't getting it out. Anyway, that'll do. Peace out. Ride very, very safely. Bye bye. As usual, not quite finished. Couple of things I forgot to say. Firstly, you all saw me doing this. Dead chuff with it, but with it being quarter horse, when I was trying to do heavier stuff, it stops, and you lift the handle up and nothing happens. Stupid, my fault. If you do something like this, don't forget I'm going to put a clamp there and a clamp there, so you can lift the blade out, otherwise it's just going to superheat the motor. So yeah, first time I did it and jammed it, I realised I jammed this and that makes no difference, you just lift off the work. But when you're actually using the drill, yeah, it's great, you can pull it down, but you can't push it up. So 2 clamps, safety first. Felt a bit of a fool when I found that. The other thing I was going to show you, I've been waffling on about my roof and what's on with it, and you've probably no idea what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, this stuff. So now it's got 2 layers, and the bad bit over there. What used to happen, that layer on the carport used to stick out over the shed and flood the shed, and even though there was a gutter underneath, so at some point in time they've replaced it. And what we've done, you see all the screws? Every valley's got a screw in it. That's because it's such a shallow roof, the water would come off the end, and at a certain speed it would run underneath and go back. So just putting a screw in like that gives it a path to drop it straight into the gutter. and then all the foam. But it's quite a big area, as you can see, and with that double layer you can actually walk on it now. So I'm quite pleased with that. I think it'll be waterproof. All the old holes have been siliconed, my lad did it. I've still got this thing to fix, all the dot, you can see it up there, but I've got the materials to do that. I'm not going to start it until I've found some more matching bricks and finish the brickwork on that hole in the wall. Once that's fixed, which has to be before this winter, then I can shorten this slightly and make it structurally a bit better. There was one other thing that I forgot to mention. What was it? It was something in here. I've done the drill, I've done the relocation of my tools up there. I've shown you about the bike. I'm probably going to have to edit this bit out. I'm sure there was one other thing that's back in here. What would it be? Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, today went to a car boot and I found miner's lamps and argued with the bloke about the price because he wanted a fortune. But this is a mining area that I live in. I'm near Lee, Astley, north of Manchester. There's a couple of pits. Gin pit was one that's been closed down, turned into a housing estate. The other pit, can't remember what it's called, but that's been turned into a mining museum. You can actually go and see the massive steam engine jobby that drove the big wheel to drop the cages and all that. So there's stuff like this. They're miner's lamps. Now they're not quite appropriate, but I saw them and I thought, ooh, the scale. So if you imagine that as one, and they've got two bulbs in, notice. There's the other. That's what I wanted to use for my headlight. So just, it's hard to do obviously on a table, but you can see the idea. So you could have main beam, possibly main and dipped in there. You could have indicators, side lights, whatever combination you wanted, and they're tiny, and I like that. I love the fact it says, I don't know if you can read it, it says Alderman Sons Limited, Denton, Manchester, Type C. Proper miners lights, brilliant, the switch on and everything. After an argument I paid £7 for the pair. He wanted 20 quid for about 8 of them, but I chose the best two. All the lenses inside and all the glass was all screwed. These can be cleaned up, take off the fittings, grind that back, bit of fiberglass, because obviously they both point the same way with the switch. I don't need the switch for high and low. And this is like a rubberized stuff. If I can get it black somehow, but I want to keep that. I can sand the outer edge. The backs are pretty good than a cast. Superb. Going along with the sort of theme, but something to do with the area that I live in. So I'm dead chuffed with them. Anyway, yet again, ride safe. Bye.